Hello, I'm Margaret Hereford. I first got into social work the very beginning when a letter was sent out from Westwood Hospital to various churches in the area asking for volunteers to visit patients on the back wards who didn't have any family or friends to visit them. We in the church, and that was Holroyd, Shipley, decided that it was something we could do, and a few of us got together, and once a month we went from Shipley up to Queensbury to visit men and women who were on their fairly disabled and not able to have any visitors or didn't have any visitors. We went on for quite a few years. It was a long way to go, but we did enjoy it, and we felt we were much appreciated. Following that, it was felt that perhaps we could do similar work in Shipley, in and around Shipley and Bingley, because there was a gateway club, the Shipley and Bingley Men Cap Society, I should say, had a youth club, and they were struggling with premises, facilities and organisers. And through Mrs. Halliday, Sylvia Halliday, and the members of the church, we set up the Gateway Club, the Link Club at Holroyd Church. That ran for many years and is still running. From there, I saw an advert in the local paper for a social worker aide, and I thought it was worth applying for. I had no idea what the job was, but I did apply and was successful. Maybe it was because I'd been involved with Young Wives, a prisoners group, the Link Club. There was a variety of things I'd been doing as a young mother with children at home, and I got the job as a social worker aide. It was the first post at Linfield Mount. They didn't quite know what the job was going to entail. I certainly didn't. And after 2 years, I was encouraged to apply to become a qualified social worker, which was a CQSW, Certificate in Qualification in Social Work. And I obtained a place at Leeds University for 2 years, and I went as a mature student. So that was my beginning into social work. It was a long time, but I was then 38 when I applied, so I was a mature student, and I've never looked back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you said you're saying also how you also got through studying social work and social care. What was it exactly that made you decide to go down that path? What got you interested in studying social care, and what did it entail, your studies?
I didn't really want to be qualified. I was thoroughly enjoying myself as an unqualified social worker at Linfield Mount. I thoroughly enjoyed what I was doing, but it was my boss, Lawrence McGough, who said to me, "Margaret, you could do well if you go ahead and qualify, and you'll get a piece of paper at the end of 2 years, which will obviously enhance your salary and give you more scope to do different parts of social work," because social work was, at that time in Linfield Mount, I was working particularly with the elderly, mentally ill people who had been in hospital for 6 to 8, even longer weeks, and needed some help to go back home. And that was my role up at Linfield Mount. So going to university opened my eyes completely to all avenues of social work. It was classed then as from the cradle to the grave, which of course involved childcare, teenagers, adoption, fostering, care of the mentally ill, care of the mentally handicapped, as they were called then, and all generic social work, really. It was a 2-year course, and I did enjoy it. It was all studying and essays, which I found extremely difficult, but with a little bit of help I got through it. Mm-hmm. And from there I qualified, and I went to work in Bingley, which was a lovely spot in Bingley Myrtle Park, although you didn't get much chance to look at the views when you were busy working in the office. Mm-hmm. But there I took up the role as a more generic social worker, and I was working with childcare, very difficult teenagers, children in care, which I found very stressful, and then the more elderly and handicapped. So yes, I did get my eyes open to all aspects of social work.
Mm-hmm. And also you said how you'd worked with both like child care and with teenagers and also the elderly. How would you say your experiences working with different age group differed? How did it differ working with different age groups, and what where were the needs different?
That's a big question. If I can talk a bit about teenagers and childcare, because that was a particularly stressful part of the work, and I imagine still is. I would hate to be involved in removing children from their homes and into care or into foster homes, babies whose parents just couldn't cope. I found that very stressful. Teenage girls, probably 11, 12, 13, through growing up, through the hormones, puberty, seemed to be particularly angry with society, and they were into drugs, self-harm. That was very common in Bingley, far more common than anybody realised. Slashing the wrists and taking pills, all attention seeking, but you had to listen to them. Sorry, I'm going to cough. You had to listen to them, you had to spend time with the families, with their extended families, to just try and put the pieces together as to where things could be improved. A lot of abuse, child abuse in Bingley, and especially the outlying areas of Bingley, that you would never ever dream of. It was horrendous to find out what had been going on and what was going on. Parents who drank too much, parents who just lost control and sexually abused the children. And the only way these girls could talk about it was to get attention to themselves. And once you were in the A&E unit with wrists latched up here, they were trying to tell them that they didn't want you to go back home. Then you got to work out the pieces why. So childcare was very, very stressful. You had to go to the courts, you'd got to have a watertight case of why you felt you should take these children away. And I'm sure it's no easier these days. You were never doing the right thing. If you didn't take them away, you were ignoring it. If you did take them away, that was all wrong. So that was very stressful. The elderly, you found that they were, if they'd been lost a partner or had to face a serious illness, so many of them didn't have close family or family that they could talk to or who would understand. And there's a lot of mediating done between a social worker and the families to try and help them understand perhaps what their parents' needs were. That was also quite difficult as well.
Mm-hmm.